Black music has had an undeniable impact on modern music, not just hip hop and R&B, but on or R&B, but on rock, jazz, pop, and even country music. Every genre has been touched in some way by the artistry of Black musicians and creatives. And for more on this, we're joined now by two guests. Dave Cook, aka Davey D, is a journalist, educator, and hip hop historian, and we've reached him in San Francisco. Hi, Dave.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing well. And then joining me in studio is Henri Brown, a music and film producer, and he performs with the live band HB Wild. Welcome to you, Henri.
Well, thank you very much. Nice to be here.
Both for joining us. Henri, I'll start with the first question with you. What role has music really played in your life? That's a big question, but...
Very big question. I mean, it's encompassing of everything for me. I knew at a young age that music was going to be where I was going to go and where I was going to end up and what it was going to be all about. My mother, I was very blessed and fortunate for my mother because she would take me to these shows like when I was 6, 7 years old. Like there's a place in Vancouver called The Cave. So I seen Ray Charles, I seen, Diana Ross, I seen The Temptations, all of these amazing, legends at a young age, which kind of sparked me to have a fire and a light for the music way back when.
And do you sort of give your mother a lot of that credit? Was that something she was determined to do? She wanted you to have that in her life?
I think she just loved music so much, and I didn't even really know how much until she lost eyesight at age 61, and I produced 2 records with her.
Wow.
They were great. I mean, the last record I did was with Wynton Marsalis, so music was in my DNA from day one. So
from conception,
I could not run from it.
Dave, we celebrated the 50th birthday of hip hop just a few months ago, August 11th, 2023. How would you describe the impact that hip hop has had, not just on music, but really society and culture as a whole?
Well, I think you have to frame it and understand that hip hop is a continuum of Black expression. Okay. And when we talk about music itself, you have to understand that, at least for people here in the States, well, actually Black folks all throughout the diaspora, music is not a spectator thing, but it's a participatory thing. It brings community together. It's something that is not just heard, but felt. Music is ceremonial. It's social. It's political. It's part of the way in which people express themselves. And when folks have been oppressed, music was one of the few areas in which they could let it all out. Folks could let it all out and not be subjected to some of the punishments if you spoke your language or exercised some sort of cultural aesthetic. So when you're talking about hip hop, you're looking at folks who are coming into impoverished conditions in the Bronx, where I'm from. Mm-hmm. You're looking at the removal of social services. You're looking at the removal of even just music classes in schools. And folks found ways to be creative. And for many people, this was not just a way out because there was no money at the time, but it was a way for folks to momentarily be in another space, in another place. I started out as an MC in the 70s, and I was too young to really articulate what I would later come to know. But I remember being in a circle with friends and just rhyming. And this was just like a high. It was like something that you couldn't stop. Later on, I could see that sort of feeling be demonstrated in the church, where people would just be singing. And they don't want to stop singing because that music is infectious and everybody wants to participate. And so now I come to know it's part of an oral tradition. It's part of just a way in which people could really embrace a higher power, so to speak. And so music is magical. It's transformative. And it's a continuum of expression that has always existed. Hip hop being the latest of the many genres that have come out of our communities that's been impactful all around the world.
Well, and part of it is that challenging of power and pushing back against the status quo. So, is that how hip hop has kind of resonated so far and wide around the world? It's such a common theme, I suppose, for people.
Well, people find it as first an easier entryway than just traditional music, where you might have to have a band, you have to, get everybody together. No, you know what? I can go home and I can write my poems. I can express myself. I can maybe practice on a turntable in lieu of an instrument and really hone these skills. And I think a lot of people saw the vocalization aspect or the other expressions musically, that they can just translate that, what was coming out of the Bronx and what was coming out of the States, to things that they were already doing. So a lot of people have already had a spoken word or an oral tradition. Hip hop just gave it a different type of flavor and a different type of way in which you could do it. So it was quite a natural fit for a lot of people. The turntables, which was a replacement for the drums, but because it was really based around the percussive breakdowns of songs. Well, people in other parts of the world and in other parts of the country, it's like, well, I like the breakdown. I like the rhythms. I like the drums. And they were able to pick up and really join in. So that's the reason why it had so much impact. It was one that allowed people to really be creative almost off the jump, without having to have traditional formal training that you would have to do if I was to learn to play a particular instrument, if that's making sense.
No, and I've never actually thought about it in that sense, but it is. It's accessible and it's immediate. And that's incredible. Henri, how would you describe, I guess, the influence Black music has had on, really all the music that we listen to today?
Well, it's funny. I mean, and amen, David D, because that was exactly what I was thinking. The biggest influence with everything, I don't care what it is. I produce country records, I produce rock records, jazz records, and everything, has a flavor. So if I do a country record, you won't even notice that there's an R&B and a soulful influence underneath the country, lyric, if you will. It's everywhere. It plays a part in every genre of music, which is great.
Do you get the sense that?
Can I just add something to him?
Of course you
to
can.
what he's saying. What I think Henry's talking about is that there's soul.
Yes.
And it's something that you can't really describe, but this comes back to this communal feeling. It's not that I hear you, I feel you.
Yes, exactly.
You feel this energy. And so he could be doing a country song, and there's going to be people that are saying, there's something about the way that young man or that brother is doing his music. That's how they're going to say, there's something about it.
I don't know what it is.
But it's in there.
Yeah.
It's that
I don't
flavor.
know what it is, but I like it. Yeah.
And I think, Henri, you probably know, if you're in church, it's about conviction.
Yes.
Like, I seen it, and you gotta mean it.
Right.
And that is something that is not easy to replicate. It's something that really comes from the depth of your emotion, your pain, your trials, your joy, and once that's out there, there's nothing that you can stop it. And I think that's been the magic of Black music, and music throughout the diaspora, that is able to connect to that thread of being of conviction and soul.
Yeah, well, it's the acceptance, right? So we're getting accepted and enjoying the acceptance of the music that they're enjoying. So whether it's hip hop, rock, R&B, whatever it is, it's being accepted by the masses now. So we are able to get a message across that we weren't able to before, but now we're getting it across, and it's crossed, and you don't even realize that it's in there, right? It's great. That's the beauty of it.
It's baked in.
It's baked in it now.
Do you get the sense, though, that people maybe forget the roots of that music? Or maybe they were just never aware?
Yeah, they weren't aware and they weren't around it. So,
Okay.
I mean, when I play a song for somebody and I go, well, you sing your lyric over this, and they go, okay, it works. They go, well, it's different than what I know, but I like it. Okay, well, that's good. Leave it there, and let's put your lyric on top of this very, soulful, funky groove.
It's incredible. It's a little bit of magic that happens.
It is.
Dave, it's not uncommon to hear people say, hip hop is trash, rock is better. This is not something I'm saying, by the way. Do not shoot the messenger. But they say that without realizing the sort of truth of rock music's roots. So how do you sort of fight that, I guess, misconception? It can be called ignorance. No, you don't.
I don't.
There's no fight there, is there?
Because, for one, we're talking about a participatory thing. So there's a community of folks that recognize several things. First, what is generally presented to the masses is the music industry that has commodified certain aspects of expression. And that's not the reality for many of us who are in communities where this music comes from. I teach 150 students, and each year I ask them to let me know what they're listening to. If you look at their playlist, very few of the artists on their playlist is anything that you might have seen at the Grammys or that that is being played on radio. Some of it is like locally based. If they're from LA, there's a bunch of LA artists that we never heard of, but they heard of. There's a bunch of artists on SoundCloud that aren't trying to be heard on the radio, but they go to their sites on SoundCloud. And when you talk to these students, they'll tell you, well, that artist who you think is trash, I'm hearing something about his struggle. I'll give an example. There was an artist called Extension. Me personally, I wasn't a fan, but when Extension died, I had 100 students in my class that were seriously upset and impacted. And I'm asking, well, why? And it's like, because he was able to talk about depression and he was able to talk about something that I could relate to. And, you know, me being somebody who's older, I'm not supposed to be able to relate to something that is 20 years my junior. Right. But my students can, the same way that they might not be able to understand why I felt a Tupac or a Public Enemy, the same way that I might not have been able to understand why my parents loved a John Coltrane or James Brown or Earth, Wind and Fire, in a way that if you said something bad about any of those groups, they're ready to see you out in the parking lot. Like, don't you talk about Earth, Wind and Fire.
Come on, what you talking about? What?
It's true.
Yeah.
You better remember the 21st night of December.
Yeah. So those songs are more than just songs, but they represent special times in people's lives. They represent a time where people gathered, have shared experiences. And so music is very important. I'll just close with this. Last night, as the Grammys were playing, Olivia Rodrigo, started singing. And, and I'm joking around. My daughter, she's there. She's a tween, and she's there with her friends. And I joked around and said, boring. And they got really upset, like, yo, because what Olivia represents is, is something that touches them, right?
Yes, she speaks to them.
She speaks to them the way that somebody like Alanis Morissette spoke to a generation of women, who might have been tweens 30 years ago in the 90s. So music is a communication. It's a way to really touch the hearts and souls of people. And that goes above and beyond the commodification, which is a whole other thing that we could talk about. So I don't try to argue with people. If you think it's better, then have at it. I'm happy with the music I'm listening to.
Well, look at it like this. Look at it like this time in our generation now, where you can get music everywhere. Whereas we were scheduled to have music just be on your your FM radio or your AM radio, and that's all you had. Much more narrow. Exactly. Now you can get music from everywhere. So you can go and listen to these underground artists and go, wow, that's amazing. Wow, they're great. You know, and that's the beauty of it. Now it's not based on whether you were on the Grammys or not. Do you have good music? We want to hear it.
Yeah, and you have access to so much music, and you can find that song or that artist that really speaks to you. And Bob Marley wrote "I Shot the Sheriff," but then it was redone by Eric Clapton, and the first hip hop song to reach the Billboard charts was "Ice Ice Baby."
Okay,
and I'm sorry to have been part of that. I feel like, but what does this say about the way the music industry was built? Henry, I'll throw that to you first.
This is funny because I was brought up in Vancouver. I've been here since 1966. Okay, so I thought that there's no way that I wasn't going to be successful and I wasn't going to get that record deal here in Canada, because I thought, I'm here, I might as well get it done. Well, I didn't realize that the record companies in Canada, like this is 1983 when I was doing shows for CBC here, and they had a big show called the Fame Game. Well, we won all the shows, we got all the awards, and I couldn't buy myself a record deal in Canada because they said there's not enough black people. I said, but wait a minute, there's other people who listen to the music besides black people, and they didn't realize that until now, so... We're stuck.
Talk about it as being a
okay.
little bit behind on the curve. Dave, how do you feel about this sort of historical treatment in the music industry?
Well, the music business is based on trying to make money. And the way that they do that is they look at demographics and they try to measure what those demographics have to spend. The holy grail, as I was telling my class, has traditionally been teenagers, in particular white teenagers. And the holy grail for the music wise is if you can find a white artist that can do black music. That was Elvis, and you saw that continuation.
That's it.
Throughout the years. But with that being said, again, that does not stop people from creating music, gathering around musicians that they like, creating genres that they feel akin to. And with the advent of technology, being able to build communities in spite of what the industry does. For example, at the Grammys last night, we saw Burna Boy, and and he redid a song with Brandy and had 21 Savage. But that Afro beat has been bubbling around for a good 10 years.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Now, maybe the mainstream is like, oh, there's Burna Boy and Wizkid and all that and Thames.
Who are these new kids?
But a lot of people knew what was popping with it for a very long time. And of course, Nigeria has really been, they know what's going on. And then I think, what's his name? The host, talked about Amapiano, which has been around for a good 6 years, which is just now starting to make the mainstream with Tyler's song Water and Tim's song Me, Myself. But for a lot of people who are into music and go to clubs and all that, these things are mainstay. And so to me, it's like the way that we should be conducting ourselves is to be digging into the crates, enjoying what we enjoy, sharing it with folks. And, the industry is going to try to figure out how they can corral us, put us in little boxes. Oh, if you're Asian, you like this. If you're black, you like that. If you're white, you like this. And I think it's very antiquated, and it does a disservice for people who can speak multiple cultural languages.
He said it's about the money.
Go ahead. Yeah.
He said it's about the money. They said the number one hip hop artist in the world is Eminem. So it's still about the money, right?
Yeah, it is. I could talk to you both for hours, but unfortunately that is all the time we have for today. But I can't thank you both enough for joining me today.
Well, thank you for having us. And David, we will connect, you and I. We got more to talk about together.
There you guys go. I'm jealous. You guys can continue on without me.
No, we'll call you and let you get in on
perfect.
that
I'll talk to you guys later.